Update 9/21/2011. People have been emailing me, asking what exactly happened in 1999. I will get to that. Those weird TV shows I was watching apparently were meant to attract kids to Mr. Bear's house. What Mr. Bear did shocked the entire town. My dad actually drove me to Celadon along with the address Mr. Bear left on the letter. The house was actually in the outskirts of the town, in the open farmland. I still remember that house. It looked like an older farmhouse that looked to have been built in the early 1900s. The windows were all boarded up, and the house looked in a state of disrepair. As we walked up to it, I remember my dad checking the address over and over again, and looking at the house in disbelief. Then the door opened. I expected Mr. Bear to be at the door, but I was surprised to see a police officer emerge from the creaky doorway. The officer began talking to my dad, while I quickly asked if this was Mr. Bear's house. The officer's face cringed slightly and muttered, "Oh God," or something like that. He started talking quietly to my dad, so I couldn't hear. Although my dad told me to go to the car anyway, and then we just went home. My dad was quiet the whole way home. I felt something strange had happened. My dad never told me what happened for a while. I forgot about it. Channel 21 no longer came on. And when I asked about it, my dad would not acknowledge its existence. I think it was when I was 13 when I learned the truth. I remembered Channel 21 one day and asked my dad about it. I guess he finally decided that I should hear the truth. Local 21 was a local TV channel that ran from October 1997 through August 1999. The entire channel was made from a house, the one I visited, and ran by a man who was not really known by anyone in the town. The channel was only available to older TVs because the signal was one picked up by rabbit ears, the weaker frequencies. The man created all the shows in the channel, all of which were kids' shows. His hand was Booby, he was Mr. Bear, and he was the mysterious cameraman. The real reason he created the channel was more disturbing than what was originally thought. As you might have already guessed, he kidnapped kids and held them in his cellar, but while most people thought that he was a serial child molester, he really wanted to use the kids for another purpose. The day I arrived, the man had fled his house the night before. The day before the police went in for their investigation. I wasn't the only one watching. Update 11/09/2011. Sorry for not answering questions for so long. I haven't accessed my email account for some time. Well, anyway, let me finally set things straight about what I know. Back in October, I visited the house previously owned by the man who ran Local 21. 2 women lived there, operating a daycare business. How ironic. And answer the questions that you guys emailed me. Question: who else watched Local 21? I know other people watched it for sure, including those kids who wound up at Mr. Bear's cellar. After some Google searches, I found a few people on the Neo-Seeker forums who were discussing shows from Local 21. They talked about the kids show I watched, but also 2 other shows that I had never seen before. A user named I Am Real Life seemed to know all the shows that were broadcasted on Channel 21. Here are the 2 that I've never heard of. The Fallen Angel in Life. I Am Real Life described it as a fairly boring show about a guy rambling on and on in front of the camera about how he must please Satan and appease him before it was too late. Paint with the Soul. and Real Life and other user called Siggy92 were discussing this show. They described it as Blair Witch-like, as it consisted of the cameraman wandering around a forest at night doing nothing particularly interesting. I'll go looking for the conversation and see if I can find the link. Question, where is Mr. Bear, or the guy who wore the costume? If I did know, I would have said earlier. I have no idea where this guy is, if he's dead or alive, hopefully dead. When I see my dad's friend next time, I'll ask him about this. Maybe I can get a more definite answer. Question, what did Mr. Bear do to the children? This is by far the most common question I've been asked. I found this out in October as well, via my dad's friend who is a retired regional officer. Apparently, the man playing Mr. Bear took the kids out of the house and into the forest nearby. Now, what he did there, the police are not exactly sure how it happened. 16 charred bodies of children between the ages of 4 and 13 were found in a 15 by 15 foot deep ditch within the forest. My dad's friend did not want to go into exact details, but I'm seeing him next Thursday anyway, so maybe I can extort more information from him then. That's all I have for now. Thanks for keeping an interest in my blog. I'll try to gather as much information as I can for my next post. I've actually been getting pretty interested in this myself. It should be my right to know what the hell happened. Update February 1st, 2012. I'm sorry I haven't posted anything for a while. I kind of lost interest in this blog since I had a standstill while looking for more information about the identity of the owner of Local 21. However, a few weeks ago, I struck gold. I found some answers surprisingly from the father of a kid that I used to babysit. He lives just across the street, and I used to look after his kids when they were younger. He currently doesn't have a job either. He used to live near the woods outside of the city and witness the owner's activities in the woods. His name is Anthony Polo. When he lived in the small bungalow outside the woods, he would often venture in to smoke a joint of marijuana or two before returning to his work as a wood craftsman. Polo described as sometimes he would hear voices of children coming from the deeper. He would hear the voices of children coming from deeper within the woods, as well as glowing lights off in the distance. Polo told me these events started in late 1997. This is around the time that Local 21 began airing. He apparently became annoyed by this happening every once in a while and actually went to investigate. Polo then described what the whole scene looked like when he got there. There was a group of kids, he said, about 13 or 17, and the ages were 5 to 12, gathered around a large fire pit with a big burning fire. With them was a single adult. Polo talked to the man, noting his unusual, unkempt appearance of a crack addict, as well as his constant twitching, and asked what he was doing out in the forest with children. The man said that they were on a camping trip, something they did frequently. Polo, not suspecting anything, the city has one of the largest crime rates in Canada, simply left it at that and told them to be quieter. Polo paused for a while before telling me that they never became quieter. In fact, sometimes he heard loud chanting from the children in an unknown language. He didn't bother meeting the man again, as he was moving anyway. I told Polo that the man was probably the owner of Local 21, but he doubted it, as he heard that the man was moving to Pickering by several other residents near that area. Here's what I know. The man would take kids into the woods regularly for camping. The fire pit Polo described may be the hole the bodies of the children were found in. The children Polo saw were probably the ones found dead. The man moved to a city called Pickering, a small city east of Toronto. I'll discuss this with my dad's friend, the ex-cop, and see if this matches anything the police knew about the man. I also want to see if he has any other knowledge of what was aired on Local 21. Update, March 20th, 2012. Good news, guys. I talked to my dad's friend, and he disclosed a lot of information for me. First, I asked if the police had any information on the man who ran Local 21. He replied that they've only had the same leads for years and never found a suspect. However, the Peel Regional Police do have some of the tapes found in the house in Local 21, the one that was broadcast from. He took me over so that I could watch a few. I guess I haven't said much about them yet. My dad's friend, whose name is Michael Wilson, a pretty nice guy, he seems to understand my thirst for knowledge on what happened during the late 1990s in that house. He feels that it was wrong that my dad went so long without telling me much. He took me to the Davis Road Police Station, if you don't know. It's the largest station in the city, one of the largest within the Peel region itself. Well, each of the main stations around Peel have some of the tapes, and Davis Road Station has 3. I got to watch all of them. Unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to take any home for obvious reasons. Booby Episode 2. Friends are like flowers. This was one of the first Booby episodes ever made. The camera quality looked crappier than usual, possibly even older camcorder, but the scene was set in the same place as the Booby episodes usually take place. I recognized it instantly. The episode began with Booby swaying back and forth contently for a few seconds, before another hand entered. The other hand was much smaller, looking as if it belonged to a young child. And the smaller hand eagerly began bouncing around before sliding up to Booby, bringing its fingertips together to kiss Booby. After a few seconds, Booby grabbed the smaller hand and squeezed it tightly. This continued for at least 10 seconds before the camera slowly panned left until the hands were out of sight. The camera continued until it showed a wilted daisy lying by itself. The camera then zoomed in on the daisy slowly, as a little girl's voice became audible saying, "Friends are like flowers in the garden of life." The episode then ended. Paint with a Soul, Episode 10. Garbage thrown away. Paint with a Soul was one of the shows that I Am Real Life and Siggy92 discussed on Neoseeker. I told the police about this, and they informed me that 12 episodes of the show were made and broadcasted between December 5th, 1997 and January 8th, 1998, exactly as I Am Real Life and Siggy92 described. The episode opened with a cameraman wandering around in a forest. It appeared to be during the evening, as it seemed the sun was setting. The cameraman walked along a path until he got to an area where there was a lot of garbage lying in the leaves. The camera looked around the various wrappers, bottles, bags, and boxes, making sure each item got a few seconds of screen time. The camera then focused on a single area before the man spoke. I recalled he spoke in a very timid, quiet voice, and I swear I've heard it somewhere else before, like on another Celadon Local 21 show. I could barely hear what he was saying, but he mainly talked about how humans are garbage, or something that had to do with saving ourselves by clearing up the garbage, or us. It actually sounded really stupid, but still, a feeling of dread came over me. I mean, that forest was possibly where those bodies were found, right? And finally, Mr. Bear's Cellar, Episode 25. When the police administrator brought this tape in, I actually said, "Oh shit," and chuckled a bit out loud. Of course, I got stares from the staff, but Wilson explained to them about my little experience with Mr. Bear and how I still kept the letter that he sent me. Like the previous episodes, this one included a guy wearing a bear mascot costume. The episode began with Mr. Bear waddling over to the red cloth table with a bottle of orange juice in his hands, or paws. On the table were 16 shot glasses, as well as a small bottle that contained an unknown liquid. Mr. Bear poured an equal amount of orange juice into each glass before opening the smaller bottle and depositing one drop into the glasses. Mr. Bear then went off camera. There was some minor sounds, such as shuffling, and then Mr. Bear emerged from behind the camera's location. Following him were 16 children. Some of them looked as young as 4. Others looked like they were practically teenagers, and as the children entered, the administrator commented that this is the only episode that showed all 16 victims. The kids all looked rather content, except for the one who had visible bruises on his face, and unlike the other kids, he had a more fearful expression. He also looked about 11 or 12, which caused me to recognize him. He was the kid who asked about his sister and subsequently met an unknown fate at the end of episode 23. That one episode I watched during July of 1999. Now, when I told the administrator this, he confirmed that it was the same kid. He also featured in episode 24, an episode that only aired once at 3 o'clock on July 1999. The police still have not found that tape. Mr. Bear then broke into song, singing about citrus fruits and how good vitamin C was for you. I could barely hear the lyrics as they were muffled by the bear mask. The kids all drank their juice. The one from episode 23 doing it rather reluctantly, and the episode ended. After viewing the 3 tapes in possession of the Davis Road police station, I'm satisfied. But only temporarily. I still want to know the full story. The police just kept giving me the same crap about the creator of Local 21 being a fetishist pedophile. He was an apparent cultist. I'll sign off for now. Get into university first, get information later. Hopefully I'll get back to this blog, as soon as possible.